So guys, been meaning to make another one of these videos. I just made that first one and they take a lot of time to make. So I just haven't made any more, but I think they're really good even if nobody watches them, just because they are a great way for me to talk these trades out, relive them in my head, and almost explain them like I'm explaining it to somebody that hasn't seen it. So it's like my brain can hear that over itself again and solidify things that I need to be working on anyway. And if somebody else gets value out of it, that's even better. Um, Kyle Williams does some trade reviews that are really, really great. His monthly recaps. Obviously, I'm nowhere near his level at all, but um, his monthly recaps are really, really great, and it's just a great concept. If you're taking this stuff serious and you want to get better at trading, then it's great to do these monthly recaps, like I said, even if nobody watches them, just because, one, you kind of have them for your own database. You can look back on it 2 years, 3 years from now. It's already going to be a long video, so we'll get into it. This is over the past month-ish, like the beginning part of this month, and a couple from, okay, yeah. We're actually going to start with this one. We'll pull this back up right now, because this is a main topic that will be throughout a lot of these trades. So INTC this morning, the morning of this trade, was gapping down to 7% on decent earnings. Let's see, what are some other things I wrote down here? Basically, I remember a good bit of this. I don't think I need to go look at my notes too much. So INTC, I want to say they're running up into earnings. That detail, in my opinion, doesn't matter a whole lot for this trade, but they basically, earnings came out, they weren't really that bad, but sometimes, if it's not what the market wants or whatever, you get a negative reaction to it. So basically they gap down big amount, and you can see pre-market or just get this after hours push down, and then just steady, you get a pop off that and steady down grind from there. So still looking weak even into pre-market, and just holding below VWAP, making lower highs. So the thinking on this trade was that it was going to be pretty weak, and if we got a pop out of the open up into any sort of pre-market level, higher the better, with some form of price speed up, both in volume and time and everything, just that exhaustion where price really speeds up. If we got that into any sort of, like I said, higher the better type level, pre-market level, even better if those levels aligned with something on the daily chart. The sentiment was we're weak, and if we got to pop off the open, maybe some dip buyers, that sort of thing, I was looking to see signs that we were going to fail and ride that back down. So I had this on watch all morning. You can see basically we're just Chopville. This is no man's land, as Lance calls it. Just not something I'm interested in. Over under VWAP, yeah, it's making a little lower high, but then it's making a higher low, and it's just like, this is noise to me. This is no go. But out of nowhere, we get this just big speed up, and you can see I started a anchored VWAP from yesterday or the day before's close, and the theme with this trade that's going to come up multiple times is one level, or one sign or signal in a trade is not good enough. It might work one time or a couple times, but in my trading and in my system, just having an anchored VWAP, like you can see right here, it bounces off this anchored VWAP. But what I find is, just because something happens and you could have made money on it, doesn't mean you should be taking the trade. Is it worth your time in the long run? Is it worth your time over a large sample size? Does it really have edge? And what I find is, and this is a mistake I made, you'll see right here where I get into this trade and get stopped out. Luckily, very disciplined on the risk, so I'm just stopping right out. But the theme with this month was I really want things to align, not only from a pattern standpoint. I want it to align from big picture reason to have a directional bias. Unless it's like a bigger name that you're just trading with the market, like a Palantir or Nvidia or something like that, where the market's trading very cleanly, and there's kind of a delay and that kind of thing, and you can kind of trade those names as a basket. But something like this, where you have something that's in play, it's got a catalyst, it's doing elevated R vol. This is an in play name. It's something with a thesis behind it that's got a directional bias. That doesn't mean it's going to work. It just means that I have a directional bias, and if I see confirmation of that, I want to be with that. So even in those scenarios, I just find you need more than an anchored VWAP, or you need more than a technical pattern. I want that all to align with a level. And you can see where, so basically one thing I use is pivot points. I don't use them in isolation, just on their own. I like to pair them with multiple things at a time, like a catalyst and all that stuff. But you can see where basically this price pushed up, we get this consolidation, it's holding, the arrows are kind of covering it up a little bit. But and for anybody wondering, there's charts in here that are going to show my actual broker executions. A lot of times I just go in as part of my own review process and put the arrows back on there where the executions were, because I like to see it not on my broker chart. I want to see it on the chart that I'm trading in. To me, it just, one, I'm living back through the execution by manually going back and putting the arrows where they need to go. So I'm like living through every entry again in a calmer state. It's part of my review process, but it also, I like to see it on my chart. I like to relive it on not the broker bullshit chart, but like my trading view chart. So for anybody saying whatever, these are arrows put on here, plenty of charts in here with the broker executions. So you can say what you want down in the comments. You can't fake that shit. So anyways, we get this push up, hold at anchored VWAP. I start to get a little bit interested here. I'm seeing what I want to see, where you're getting a stuff through VWAP and a slam back down. Those wicks, and then it goes up and slams. That's what I want to see, long or short, vice versa. So I start to get interested. Now I've got a risk level above that anchored VWAP. But the point with this anchored VWAP is it's kind of just out in la land. It's not like, this level is not a level. There's no level here. And that's what I mean. Like, if this anchored VWAP would have lined up with a pre-market level all day long, like that is significantly better. Versus taking this trade when it's in la la land. Yeah, it's a big speed up off of VWAP from the regular VWAP. So like, yeah, you don't want to miss this trade. That causes so many problems, where if you miss it, you miss it. Like, yeah, it might not go any higher, but at the risk of waiting for something that's more probable to take that trade versus and missing potential move that just goes without you, you're not really missing profits. You're saving gains. If you're saving the loss by not chasing those, because it might work once or twice, it might work here and there, but over the long run, by not chasing and waiting for something that may or may not go higher and line up where you want it and at the level and all these things coming together, that trade has edge. So when you wait for that, now you've got conviction. Now you can get behind a trade. And the more you do that, the more you can really sink your teeth into that trade. So this is just an example of something I need to be working on for the rest of this month. We're just waiting, just being a little bit more patient. If I miss the trade, I miss the trade. And if I'm going to start in small, like really small, and have a level above that where I'm expecting a fail, and risk to there. Risk to there still with much smaller size, like a quarter of an R or less, of just a starter, just a small piece. If you wanted to have, for easy numbers, $1,000 is your R. Starting in $250 risk, $100 risk, just something to kind of feel how it hits the bid, feel how it hits the offer when you try to get in and out. That kind of thing, just emotionally putting yourself in the trade, have a starter, fine, risk into that upper level. But actually sizing in, risking half R, an R, or whatever, when it hasn't fully set up, it's a no-go. So I don't want to spend too much more time on this trade, but it's a case in point of where you can see pivot, the pivot point. And if you guys want to use this, just pivot point standard on TradingView. Really like it. It's on the traditional setting. It's like black magic. It works really great. But like I said, it's paired best if you combine it with some sort of level. I would have loved it if we got some clear out of these pre-market highs, a really significant level on the daily or whatever. But even this, I didn't want to put a full line back on here so it will cover up the pivot point, make it harder to see. But like I just kind of quickly drew the fact that this pivot point, this S4, did line up here with a bit of a level here at this, 2015, 2020, or not quite 2020. That's a little bit higher on the chart. So yeah, but you see my point here is like there's a little bit of an over under here that causes a move. We pull back and test it, and then it starts to become a little bit of a ceiling. A floor right here. And then when we break through, we get a hard flush, meaning there's a lot of people with their stops there. This is somewhat of a significant level pre-market. Again, not the best, but at least it's got some level of interest when you see it break and a huge flush down like that. Like it's something of a level. So when you pair that with the fact that it's lining up a pivot, now we get into the real trade, because we've already shown weakness at this anchored VWAP. We've already shown people are wanting to sell here. But when you push back up through that, you've already got the weakness on your favor. You've already got the gapping down, the catalyst, all that. And then now we're holding below the pivot. It's something I want to see. I want to see price hold below there. And when it does go up, it gets stuffed back down. Immediate stuff back down. You can see two big hard stuffs. So at this point, that's got me interested. Now I'm sizing into this trade. It lines up with a level here. It's already shown weakness, and this is you can almost look at this like a failed breakout of the VWAP at that point, because it's kind of multiple things in your favor. So then size in, not any funny business. This is actually with options, which is why there's not a lot of scaling in and scaling out. Normally I like to be a little bit more proactive on certain trades, especially if it's like something like this, or you're kind of failing to follow through versus these levels here. So I might want to take a piece in this anchored VWAP, kind of add it back and everything. But with an options play, I'm just in and out. So this one, honestly, I kind of wish I had traded it in shares. That's a common theme for me. Even when I make money with options, I just wish I would have traded it in shares. It's just better most of the time, especially for something cheap. $20, you can get pretty big in that. It's not something where you're $200, $300, $400 a share, and it's not very capital efficient. But at this point, I'm not worried about anything, because yeah, we have this floor here, but we're making these lower highs, we're getting stuffed, and it's kind of over under this anchored VWAP. So I know the second we break here, and actually I remember this 20 level, I think it was actually right on the money at 20 or 2010 or something. I remember watching it on the tape, and the buyer is just there at 20. Like there's buyer at 20, there's a buyer at 20, there's a buyer at 20. And the second 20 broke, it has not broke this entire time I'm watching it on the tape. And then the second 20 broke, just everybody that was in that thing smashed the bid. They were just so out of it, and you got this just huge wash down. The target for something like this is always going to be VWAP for most, if not all of it. For something like this, I'm taking all of it on an options play. Just out, scalping the option. So that's that. We'll move on to the next one, which was, and these are in no particular order, just trades from the last few weeks I wanted to kind of scatter out and talk about. ZCAR, low floater, something I would normally be interested short, but super low float and never really fully set up for my system. I mean, you could kind of make an argument that this is some failed follow through here, and you could take this back down to VWAP, which works great. But I think this one had a super low float. I should have written this down. I normally would. But I want to say this one was sub-million float, doing some pretty big volume, and just not something I'm interested in. I like to see, a little bit bigger float on something before I'm going to get interested on the short side on these small caps. I think this one was like 600K or something like that, six or 700K according to TradingView. Um, and I want to say maybe it didn't. I'm gonna say there was a bunch of them that were halting this month, but this one I don't think was a halter. So basically, the idea with this trade is you get some pretty up and down vertical, up and down action. Like, yeah, it's fading good, but like if you're short here, you're gonna cover here. Like, unless you're proactively covering, a lot of people are probably wanting this thing a little bit further down. They're wanting this thing back to pre-market highs or VWAP. So when we get down here, maybe you haven't covered yet, and then it just flushes through VWAP. So if you didn't cover at VWAP, now it's just way below VWAP. So if you're on the short side, you're like, well, shit, nice. I don't even need to cover at VWAP. Like, probably get down to pre-market highs. And that's where things start going wrong, because you got a bunch of shorts in here and nobody's really had a great reason to cover, and you got super low float, the volume's drying back up. Well, when it starts to get down here and kind of struggle, I think this 1118, normally I make my daily levels purple, but I think this one was, I think it was some sort of significant level. I said in the room in IU, I said, I'm watching this thing. It's kind of been taken all day. It's 1 o'clock now, my time, 2 o'clock Eastern. It's getting late in the day. If you're on the short side, like, hey, if this thing starts to firm up pre-market highs, if we get down here and start to soak and you see a higher low around pre-market highs, I'm going to get interested at least back to VWAP. So we didn't even get down to pre-market highs. We start putting in this level, holding, getting down soaking, and just kind of making this channel, and then we start to make this higher low. And at this point, I'm just getting a small piece going, starting in and kind of recycling shares up to this level in case it stuffs, and kind of adding back. The main thing here was, so I put this trend line on it, and I just a rough trend line just to throw it on there, and it's starting to kind of hold that trend line. So now I'm like, maybe giving that trend line a little too much conviction or anything, because it's like it's holding it well. So when it starts to not hold it, I need to just forget about that. Like, yeah, it's a small cap, it might not be perfectly clean. So it starts to kind of break through this, and the plan with this thing initially was just build into a position versus these lows, or even this higher low, and just let it work. If it's going to stop you out, it stops you out. But if it's going to work, it's going to get up to VWAP, take some off at VWAP, and let it scream from there. And I basically sold my whole position here. I got frustrated with it. It's breaking the trend. I'm like, I don't want to just be holding this thing when they put an offering out or whatever. And so I basically sold my whole position 2 minutes before it squeezed. So my read was right on the money with this thing from 1 o'clock, and an hour later, 45 minutes later, whatever, it just goes and does a nice squeeze. So really frustrating there. To just part of trading. It just happens. The lesson is just trade the plan. If you're going to stop out, make your stop, and especially on these short squeezes, just put your stop in and let it go. That's just kind of the message there. And then so we got to push, and then it starts to get real jumpy, and the volume's kind of weird. Like maybe there's still some shorts in this thing. So it gets back over VWAP, and it starts getting real sporadic over VWAP. And it's getting real close to the end of the day. So at this point, I'm grabbing a little bit more just to see what happens. And sure enough, we got a nice squeeze off. I'm shooting for pre-market highs, and I'm just obviously taking some out along the way. But as we start to stuff and the tape slows down, I'm taking more off just in case. And then sure enough, bottom just falls out, and I'm trying to quickly take off as much as I can back down. I mean, I think most of my size was out probably in roughly about here. So I caught a decent, couple dollar move on it, but not, it would have been nice if we could get, back up to almost $16 here at pre-market highs and be scaling out from there. So that's ZCAR, short little, short squeeze. Let's see. Palantir, pivot point, failed follow through with the bigger level here at this 116. Um, so this was just a grinder, just super strong all day, and then it's getting up into a level and starts to fail to follow through. I'm thinking we can maybe get this pushed back down to VWAP, and so you kind of have this level here. It's holding pivot. We stuff, put in a higher low at 16 or 116, which is a pretty significant level, and then we start to we get this big stuff here. That's good, and then we put the higher low and come down, start to hold this level again, and then we get this big stuff candle right through it. Now price is holding below it. That's what I want to see to fail follow through versus this pivot. We hold below, and when we come up, we get this big wick back down. Just boom, hold below again. The bulk of the price is staying below. Push up, bang. So at this point, I'm already interested when we start to get back down below it, like this candle here, and on the tape, and with the lower high at the 116. I'm already starting to get interested that we could have a pretty high probability push back to VWAP, but just proactively. This thing had been strong all day, but we're getting pretty extended at this point. Come check back in with VWAP, especially this time of day. So start, fully sized in here. I don't know what I saw. I don't know what I saw here. It might have just been, I think it was probably the fact that we got a really quick flush after that into a congestion zone. I'm normally looking to take some off and then add back into a pop or a retest, and keep even most of my position, but just kind of generate some cash flow in the back and forth. And if it doesn't come back, it doesn't come back, but most of the time I can kind of take off a quarter, add a quarter back, or take off a half, add a half back, and kind of generate some small cash flow across that move. I think this cover was based off these wicks, kind of just the way the tape was acting down here, and the fact that we got quickly back to it. I think I'm still thinking at this point, come back in, recheck, or make a little bit of another higher low, a lower high, and recycle. But this push back up, we got a really strong from here, just breaking prior bar highs, like very aggressively. The tape was just going. And if you're watching the time and sales, there's just, I have on mine, I have like green and then bright green when somebody's paying the offer and then they're paying above the offer, and it was just bright green, just somebody was spraying this thing up. And when I saw that down at a congestion level, I'm out. If it sets back up, it sets back up, but I'm just out at that point, which was the right move. This thing went on to, break where I would have been stopping out at. And something like this, I'm just risking just above these, just above this high here. You can if it's on a small cap or something, maybe high day or whatever. But for something like a Palantir, I prefer to have tighter risk and get bigger and just be a little bit more proactive on the cover. And that worked out good. So that's Palantir, not really much to see there. This was, I'm going backwards from most recent to further away. This was a trade from yesterday, Friday, that I really botched. This was a liquidity trap on DEVS. Right read on it right off the get-go, and just got a little greedy thinking this thing can go much further. I think the consensus with this trade is to look at the prior bar high, or the daily bar high, on top of the pre-market. I'm just looking at the intra-daily, if that makes sense, like a 5 and 30-minute chart. So I'm seeing the extended hours on top of the session hours. And so those extended hours are higher, and most people's average was on the daily. It wasn't. And the other thing with this one, I think I have a shot somewhere in my notes, but not the greatest, because for those that don't know, so a liquidity trap, you have this giant day, huge volume. This is on a small cap, relatively low float. I think this one was a little bit bigger than I would have wanted it. But it did like 278 million volume or something, with most of that being, pretty high average, a lot of that being on the short side. And then it gets down here next day and the volume dries up to just basically nothing. Like, you know, I wish it was on the, let's see. I don't need to pull it back up. You can see it right here. It's really, really small. So, basically you get shorts trapped in there, and if there's no natural seller to cover, then you're stuck. Especially if you had too much size in something. Especially if you don't pay attention to the flow and you see, oh, it's got 278 million volume on the day, or at the time you're placing your trade, it's got 150 million volume. I can size in, I can put whatever size I want. I find it hard to believe people with huge accounts don't look at the float, but I'm sure they're out there and they can get sized into something not paying attention to the float, just looking at the volume. And that volume dries up, it goes back to a more normal level. And if there's no natural seller there, and now you're back at lows, so if there's overhead supply, they're going to be coming in at highs. They've already sold what they're trying to sell. The thing's going down now. So you get stuck. If there's no natural seller, you can't buy to cover, and you have too much size. So that's the whole thing. When these things start to break over these people's averages, they can squeeze a little bit. Sometimes they get way better than this. This one, I think I was just looking here. We had a pretty clean trend line from pre-market levels, and I don't just trade trend lines, but they add some extra if something's very cleanly respecting them, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, very cleanly. Then it adds a little bit of extra, just give you an idea of what's going on. The way we started to break at this point, and then this level here lined up with the ending VWAP from the main day. So that tells you kind of where the average person's average price is. So I throw a level there, which should be one of the first triggers. And sure enough, we break this level. You start to see volume come in, right here, bigger, like way bigger than even the opening print, obviously. So at this point, I've been sitting here watching it this whole time. Like, okay, is this the day? Is it going to get over here and do this? So I start adding as much in as I can get. You can see I added twice here. I would have liked to have this thing come back and hold, and then add more, but it just took off, which is why I add these second adds here. So it takes off. One thing with this trade that was really frustrating is my broker charges $1 per execution on stuff sub $1, which doesn't sound like much, but for the size I trade, I mean, even if you're trading relatively bigger than me, it's like, it adds up. If you're trying to be as proactive as I normally would be with something like this, it's very frustrating. So it kind of incentivizes you to take bigger chunks in and out, and that just mentally being there messes me up a little bit. I'm hopefully switching over to a different broker here soon. But so yeah, we get this. I take a little bit off at VWAP, not as much as I should have, and then add it back here as it starts to hold these levels again. Sure enough, we get another squeeze up, and then this was super frustrating because these ads, I put a stop just below this low for just these ads. I still want my main position, my stops down here. You can see where I ultimately filled at, but then we get this just huge wick that just boop pops my stop and comes back. Like, really frustrating, but that's part of it. So then we get back up. At this point, I'm not gonna take this loss and immediately add it back on when it's like already kind of acting not ideal. I really should have been selling. I think it's let's see. So I really should have been selling closer to this daily high. Let's see, which would have been this cover here. I mean, this sell here was this one. So this little bit higher here would have lined up pretty good. at this point you're already getting back, it pushed over this daily bar high. That's what I'm saying. So these are the levels I'm kind of thinking of based off of pre-market, in both of the, the after hour session and in pre-market. And it's already, that's the other thing, it had kind of already cleared out a couple times through pre-market and after hours, where it's pushed up past the day's high. And to me, that's another reason to be taking pieces off as quickly as you can in something like this, because if there's shorts trapped in there, there's probably not as many shorts trapped in there when it already clears out some highs and after hours and pre and stuff like that, and then fades back down. It's not like it cleared them out and just kept going, and you get a multi-day runner off something. So that trade, frustrating loser. At this point, I think I just got a stubborn, like, I got a stubborn, just like, I'm going to just hold it until my stop. I think I just got so frustrated. I had racked up a bunch of commissions paying $1, and they charged me more for under $1 for the actual shares themselves. And the fact that this thing was up so much and then it's not doing what I want, I didn't sell, and it's like coming back and I get this big stuff, and this was already frustrating me, like this ad. I didn't get as big as I want, and then the ad comes and it just gets stopped out immediately, and I didn't take any off. It's just like, I'm just not on my game. So I'm like, I'm going to just let this thing hit my stop. And that's not good. That's not good at all, to just kind of get in that mentality, like, it's already clearly not working. Take a lesser a lesser profit or break even, or like, you don't just need to let it come back to your stop just to be like, it's going to squeeze again, but it didn't. So normally it would be better than that, but I wanted to show that because it's part of trading. Then we get into this beauty on Apple. Sick trade. One of the best trades I've made in a minute. So Apple already weak. Daily chart looking weak. Bigger picture looking weak. 30 minutes looking weak. This level here, I want to say, do I have another photo? Nope. Yeah, I was short QQQ at the same time as this. We'll get into that trade in a second. So I don't remember which one I hit first. They were happening at the exact same time towards the end of the day. And I think I was maybe in this one first and then slammed Qs and then was kind of monitoring this one at the same time. Basically, a couple things. We got a huge level up here at 200. It would have been nice if we could have got there. And then this white line, I want to say, I have this back in my notes, but I'm trying to do all this without scrolling through notes and everything. Just do it a little bit quicker. I want to say this 199.50s was, or 42, was a pretty significant level 30-minute chart. And we're in a downtrend. And then we get this crazy push up. I'm trying to remember what this was off of. It was something, and then so basically we start to fail to follow through versus pivot, and this level here, we hold, and then kind of come down stuff, similar concept to what we were talking about on INTC or Palantir, I think it was. Yeah, it was Palantir. So we get a stuff, fail to follow through, fade, don't quite make VWAP. And then it's starting to kind of ABCD here a little bit. It's coming up, makes a higher low, pushes, another higher low, pushes. At this point, it's like, it's going to ramp into the close. But now we come up, I actually started getting interested here. Let's see. Yeah, so we come up, hold below pivot stuff, but we're not stuffing as good as I want. I wanted to come up like this. Stuff, come up, stuff. But we're putting in higher lows, and it's not really stuffing great. But then we come up, fail, push real down hard. Now we did get this big bid back up, which is not ideal if you're trying to short something. So I got short here as we broke back below, thinking, okay, it's failing to follow through. But this is just a starter. Immediately stopped out of it as it pushes back through these highs. I'm taking it off. It's immediately, as soon as I put it on, it's ripping me. But this adds, damn it, the freaking after hours. is messing this up. Let's go to, this is so recent. Yeah, this is just yesterday, or day before yesterday, I think it was. Yeah, Thursday. So I can pull this up. Let me get rid of this freaking after hours bar so you can see. Yeah. Okay. This push back up actually added conviction to the trade once we failed. Me being wrong added conviction to it later is what I'm getting at. So we had news come out here verified by the volume. You know, the volume's down. Oh shit. Let me move this. Okay, so yeah, we get rid of this volume bar right here. We had news. This came across the chat. There was some sort of news on Trump potentially canceling tariffs or potentially going down to 50%. There's just been all these headlines that are like, some of them are meaningful, and then some of them are just like, hey, we might do this. And like when they first started happening, a might do this was moving things. But we might do this is kind of like, now it just gets people off sides because people buy into it and then it doesn't follow through. And they're just not real headlines. They're just not. There's been so many of them that people are they've diluted them down. And unless there's a big one, it is still a very headline driven market. But from my perspective, these maybes and these stupid things that keep coming out, they just do like this, where you're already looking strong, you're making higher lows, it's towards the end of the day, and you're already at highs. And then you have a headline come out that's, hey, we might do this, and people just buy it. Yeah, cool, buy it, whatever. You can see it come in on the volume, doing double, 2 or 3 times what it was just doing here, which is nice. Confirms we ramp up. That's what started to get me interested as we push in, start to get heavy towards the close, which the conviction on this trade is, if you just bought at highs and then it starts to roll over, now you're immediately losing, and you're losing into the close. And that can, I always say from a short side perspective that I think the emotion of fear is more prevalently found in the market than that of greed, because my theory is, to be coming from a place of greed, you need to have already made money. If you made money on the last trade, you want to make more now or whatever. I just feel like, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I feel like to be greedy, you need to want more. And because so many people, because the stats are 95% of people, if not more, fail in the market, then I think most people aren't in a position to be greedy. I know they still are, but they're not in a position to be greedy as often as they're probably in a position to be fearful, because they're on average losing. So if they're on average losing, just my perspective, looking at it big picture, you're probably going to find more scenarios where they get fearful, which is why I like to short. I like to be on the short side because, as the saying goes, stairs up, elevator down. And that's exactly what's driving this trade, is people that bought this, all this volume here. And then again, like I said, me being wrong here adds conviction. Why? Because this looks like we're going to fail, and then we break out, and then the people that just bought this, they see this wick, just like I saw, but I don't like this wick. And then we get back up, and now we're kind of break and retest, and we're holding these highs. And this looks like, oh shit, we're going to go. We're going to pull up, pull back, go. And more volume's coming in. You see it right there. Bigger volume bar down here. Let's see, is that on the right one? No, it's not. It's not as big as I thought, but still a little bit more volume. And this big rip up green candle, you can't really see it, but this big green candle rip up after that rebid is like adding more buyers in there. It's adding people at an even higher average, which is great, and it's adding conviction for them that they're right. But then we start to roll over. It starts to stuff, starts to make lower highs. The volume starts backing off. We come all the way back down through all this. We don't rebid. And if you're watching the tape here, this stuff is really evident. You're not seeing the offers get hit. It's coming down. The bid's not really holding. It's kind of getting chewed and coming up and kind of getting chewed, and then it's coming up. It's kind of getting stuffed, and micro, not like a big come up and stuff, but you can kind of see that in the tape. there's a pace there that as you get down, you're just not really finding a buyer. You're not really holding a bid there. Like this should rip back up and just have something, right? Hold this level a little bit better. But when price is kind of holding way below the level down here, and when it does try to come up for a split second, it just gets slammed. People hitting the bid. I'm in. I'm in big because all these people just bought. All these people just bought. We're clearing out high a day. It's about to be in today. The volume's backing off. You look at the Qs. Qs are starting to look weak. The news headline is looking like, hey, this ain't really nothing. So now you got a bunch of people, like it already naturally wants to fail here because it's up towards highs. It already naturally wants to fail here because I believe this 199.50s is a 30-minute chart, pretty significant level. So it's already naturally wanting to have some mean reversion back up in these highs. If you look, it's also the level here that we were holding that kind of was becoming the floor for this level, for this area. So it's not like the cleanest, like holding below it type thing, but it is starting to fail to follow through versus this floor, right? This was holding here, and now we're coming up, and it's starting to fail to follow through versus that floor. So at this point, I'm in it. You know, I like that a lot. Really great read on the tape here to just see we had some level at this 199.12 area right here. So watching, I'm always like kind of proactive just on the tape, watching kind of how price feels on the box. And when we push down and just get chewed, just kind of start to speed back up, I'm taking a small piece off. I'm just recycling some with the anticipation that I'm going to scalp that small little piece, start building cash flow, start padding my stop, and then when we come back up here and make a lower high or fail at this level and get stuffed again, I have a chance to take some off and re-add at a higher price. That's what I do. I take some off, add back here. Sure enough, big stuff down. Then we start to kind of hold, where these wicks, I think it was. Yeah, kind of down near this area right here where these wicks had come down. It's not to the T, but I'm watching these areas because obviously this had a big sell-off and just boom, gets bought back up. And when this starts to come big, huge ramp up, fails, it gets picked back up there. So that's somewhat significant for me. So it comes down, starting to congest here and slow down. So I'm scalping a little bit off, but then we push back up. Now we're failing to follow through versus 199.12. We're starting to get stuffed, making lower highs. Tape's looking heavier. I'm adding back. Then at this point we're off to the races. You know, now I'm very convicted. We're going. We're failing to follow through. Tape's looking heavy. You know, people are hitting the bid. We're getting stuffed, and we're starting to roll over. We're starting to take out some of the averages of these people, which you can really see about here when we really just start to go. That's really kind of taking the average out, and Qs at this point are definitely helping too. But yeah, at this point I'm just kind of watching these levels through here. Any previous areas of congestion, big or small, just kind of watching the tape as we start to get a little bit of a bid, just kind of taking a piece off here and there. At this point I'm already up decent R, taking another piece. And then this is something I was really proud of, was now we've kind of gone back. My plan was to cover some at these lows, or no, I wasn't going to cover at these lows because it's so close to VWAP. I'm just like, well, I'm either going to stop out on a trailer or wait till we get down to VWAP and take the whole position off at VWAP. But I'm really proud of this read on the tape and just the way we push through it. It's not as fast in the moment as this candle looks like it just went through. But I want to say it was fast, started to stall for a second, and I could have covered there. Like it almost looked like it was going to bounce mid-candle. That's the thing. When you just look at the candles, you don't see how did that candle play out in the moment. And when we push back down into VWAP, I normally would just be auto out the whole thing, auto cover. Sometimes I've even got a bid sitting there for for a rebate, adding liquidity. That's another little thing. It's like if you know you have a target in mind, put some bids down there. Not only do you know you get filled, yeah, you're potentially missing out on a flush lower, but more often than not, it's going to have some bounce at that level, and you're getting a rebate back on that adding liquidity depending on your broker. So we just flush down. I don't cover because it looks heavy still, and it's at this point we're just a few minutes before the close. So really good read to just not cover at VWAP. That's something I would never do, but really happy with that. And then here, just watching the tape, just big bid, start to slow down, tape slowing down. We're already well below VWAP. It's almost the end of the day. Just a quick fully out here. I think I was probably down about half size through here, and then this was the other half here. So I'm really glad to get this whole other half down to, like 4.5, 5R on this trade. Just a banger. I'm very happy with that trade. Q's trade at the same time. Won't go too much over it. I had a stop. I right as soon as I moved my stop down to trail this thing, it just wick slams me. Lesson there is like, dude, wait for more structure to be in place before you're gonna trail a stop. Like if you're this close to entry and your target was VWAP, like just wait for there's more structure or let it come stop you out. Like break even at the best. Like put it down. Like my average was here obviously, so put it at break even. Like that would have still saved me. I honestly, in a scenario like this, I feel like you just leave it where you're not going to get hit, up here, which I'm risking to these highs. So very frustrating when I'm completely right on the move, and then, but whatever. I was in this trade at the same time, so good way to end the Thursday. That's the whole daily chart or the whole intraday chart on Q's. Google trade I shouldn't even have been in, but I made money on it. I mean, this is a trade I made money on, but it's bad trading. Like, there's clearly somebody with massive size deciding they want to be out of Google. Like that's the only reason you just get this thing just moving like almost 3 ATRs down intraday, in like a couple hours. Like to make a 3 ATR move like that is just, I mean, you can see it's just like it's taking out every fucking level. Like this all looks so small, and there's so just massive, massive, massive selling. Not something I should be stepping in front of, but it might capitulate, kind of starting to get the best of me in the back of my head. Like, it might just rip up to VWAP. So it started to capitulate here. It starts to capitulate a little bit on the volume. And it just, let's see, what was it? We were already close to a level here where, it's 150 whole number. And we start to make this now higher low, and it's changing character. So I'm like, I'm gonna put on a small piece. I shouldn't have been doing it. Like this is not even really in my playbook. That's the point I'm trying to get out of here. Is like, and this thing did go on to run a little bit higher, but like, just this stuff. This is the problem. When you take shit that you shouldn't be taking, and you make money on it, and then it solidifies, hey, I should do that. No, you shouldn't, because that trade doesn't have edge. That's not in my playbook. That's not a system trade for me. That's not something that I have all the rules for. So when you're taking stuff that's not in your system on the bigger picture, you're going to lose. So just because you make money doesn't mean it was the right decision, is what I'm getting at. Pony, like multi-days after, like the main first day. Plan here was to clear out this level of previous day's highs and these purples. I think this one should have been significant on the daily if it's purple. And we start to fail to follow through here. So I rip in, and then just immediately pushes back up through these highs. And at this point, like, you could say you get interested here if it comes back up and retest, but I don't know. At this point, it was off my radar, and I didn't really care about it. Moved on to something else, took the small loss, and moved on with the day. MYM, just a quick micro futures trade. I happen to have this thing up. I'm in the middle of playbooking something that's like a play under development for a pullback to VWAP with multiple areas of like signal to take it or to not take it. Something I've been backtesting and working on. So I already had this up kind of in the middle of the day, like looking at that, and then we had a headline hit, and the headline was, what was the headline? Something about Canada or something. It was another tariff headline that was like should be good or whatever. And I'm not a super like breaking news guy, but like I could see it. You know, it's already at VWAP and it's holding, and then just watching the tape and seeing the headline, and I was fast enough on it with the news, with having IU pulled up. The news was fast enough that I could see it was starting to get a positive reaction, and I had that split second that I was already like, you know, everything's hotkeyed for me, so I'm like, I had that little split second to be like, it's starting to act positive to this, and it's not gone crazy yet. Like I have a half a second longer to hit in, and sure enough, like I hit in and it's off. Like that's how breaking news goes. It's like if you have a chance to get in, you don't have time to think about it unless you have like Bloomberg or something. I would imagine they might be a split second faster. I don't know. Maybe maybe these S&B guys or something, Trillium, whatever. They probably, who knows? They might just be sitting there with like a minute and a half to look at it and look at the daily chart. I doubt it, but maybe it's a minute faster. If it's a minute and a half faster, they got some time, because this is like 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. I happen to already have it. Like, you got to be quick on the keys if you don't already have something like this up. I was already there. It's a market name. It's already at VWAP. It's already somewhat close enough to my playbook, like this pullback to VWAP. And then it's like breaking news. So I'm just like, it's not quite my system, but it's small size and it's right there. And I have a split second to hit it. Seemed like pretty good probability to risk these lows and catch, you know, multiples of an R. And then I'm really happy with this exit too, because I was really just aiming for these prior highs, but I'm just watching the tape. I'm just watching the speed. This is why reading the tape is so important. I was able to damn near top tick this thing just watching the box, watching it come up and stuff, and then it slows down, and then price is starting to exhaust for a second. It slows down in the box. I'm out. I'm not looking for something to just keep on going. I'm looking, it got obviously crazy extended really quick, so it just fades back down. But like, you know, if you don't sell here and you're here and you're like, wait, it's starting to hold, it might have another leg, and then before you know it, it rips back down, and you catch not even half of what you were trying to catch. Maybe you stop out. Maybe it comes down to VWAP. Like, who knows? Whatever. The point being, like, watch the tape. Look at the changing character. You know, it's taken me a year of watching tape back and like doing a bunch of S&B videos and like looking at their tape and like watching IU videos and like different whether it's like Trade Sim or whatever, where they have the tape replay, and looking at it and just seeing my own trades with the tape and recording my screen, and like it just takes a while to start to notice. It's almost like that. It's just like the INTC $20 break. Like it just, if I would have been trading it in shares, that would have been an ad. Like the 20 break would have been an ad for sure, because you just see it. You just see it in the tape, you know? And it's stuff like this. It just is so powerful, where you can just get that that conviction on the sell, or know when to sell, or to at that point not sell at my target and let it just keep spraying up and just pushed right through, and then boom, now it starts to slow down a little bit higher than where I wanted to sell. Cool, I'm out. Hit the hotkey. Boom. This was a nasty one on HIMS. I mean, whew, damn, dude, this is a good one right here. And obviously, you guys can see I'm showing losses too. It's not just been all roses and rainbows. I mean, that DEVS trade was like, got too big in it. added, got my ad taken out. Like I lost, and I'm paying a bunch of commissions, hitting the button, like more commission than I normally be paying. Like that was a decent sized loss there. Like I shouldn't even. And it could have been green, you know. But that's trading. This thing was insane. Why was this on my radar initially? HIMS has been on and off my radar a couple times. There was another trade in here where, yeah, I traded it like a day before this trade too. Let's see. It had been running up on this multi-day run. We start to fail 42s. Oh, it's literally the day before. So, yeah, in the moment, on the day, we started to fail these 42s on this first day. So it's already on my radar, multi-day runner, obviously got crazy extended. I had a play up, wanted up in here. Comes back, bases. I think somebody I know actually got long here, which is sick. It's like 50%. But yeah, now it's getting really extended off the 200 day, and it's coming up into not the best levels, but levels kind of, not super clean ones, but areas of congestion, and starting to kind of hit some walls. I think this 40 level was much better than this 42 whatever level, which was this trade. We'll get into that one in a second. So we're going backwards in time. So HIMS is already kind of on my radar, kind of on my watch list. I was watching, this particular day was the day after Palantir after hours earnings. And Palantir had that crazy move in after hours down. I think the earnings weren't really that bad, but they weren't what people wanted or whatever. It's never really the specifics. It's just, this was an event, this is how it reacted. That's the catalyst. Like sometimes you don't really need to know exactly the number. What was the analyst rating? It's like, well, they put something out and it had this reaction. That's the catalyst. Like that's what you need to know. That's for me, that's what I need to know. Don't worry about the price action at that point after. Like this is a reason to move. It's got a probability. This is how the market's reacting. What's my pattern? What's the setup? What's the daily chart look like? Where's my pattern fit into there so I can structure my risk and get in there, get a high probability entry, and know that I have this catalyst. Like sometimes you need to understand a little bit more, but like most of the time, like doesn't matter. Earnings good or bad, like it just, they had earnings. So I'm watching Palantir, missed the op on Palantir. I'm waiting for just some sort of pop out of the gate to get short, and it just flushes. I'm not going to chase it. Like that's how you mess up. So I'm like, well, shit, I missed my A+ opportunity on Palantir. So, you know, I'm kind of looking around, and then somebody, I don't know if I jumped over to HIMS or somebody said, I know it was already on my watch list just from being a multi-day runner, but somebody said, hey, HIMS is running or something. I think I was popping over to it right at the same time somebody was saying that, and it just starts to speed up, like just ridiculous. Like if this is not so zoomed in, like y'all, this is from like 37.90 at the low to 48.50, like in a burst on the morning. Like that's ridiculous. Like when you're looking at this in the moment here, this looks extended, because when your chart is adjusted to pre-market levels like normal, and you're scaled that way, and you get a move like this where it goes a couple bucks, 37.90 up to 40s, you know, like this is 40. Now you're at 42. You're $5. You know, yeah, you're $5 off the lows, $4 or $5 off the lows, and you're already kind of pushing up into pivot. You're pushing up in this yellow level. This is where you can get a little trigger happy and get yourself on the front side once, twice, 3 times trying to catch something like this, because it's already just so extended. And it's like, oh, this is the moment. Any slowdown you see is like, that's the moment. And I used to do a lot more of like in 2024, you'd get like almost, I think it's a Bella Fade Scout from S&B. Like you get the burst off the open, and the turn. You see the turn on the tape, and it starts to break the prior bar low, and you just slam it in, and you get that pushback down to VWAP. I don't really do that in this market because you don't get the spray up of the bull market off the open. Like, I haven't been seeing that like the same way in 2024 for my system. Y'all might be seeing it. So I'm really proud of myself to wait and have the patience on this thing, to not be worried about missing it, because at this point you're like, oh, we got to trade here. And at this point you're like, we got to trade here. And then at this point you're like, oh man, I don't want to miss this thing. And then it just pushes right through. Like, you start to think this, like, you see this big exhaustion move, it slowed down, big exhaustion move here, and then like it gets up into R3, this pivot level, you're close to a level here at 47.50, and then this candle for a second pushes down, and it goes red from where it opened. You're like, that's the moment, you want to slam it. But what does it do? It goes 46 here, it goes $1 higher, or $2 higher from where you would have been entering. So like, you'd have been taking that shit off the second you hit it. So these are those plays where I could feel like at this point here, I'm getting locates. At this point here, I'm making sure I got locates. And then at this point, my fingers are on the trigger telling me, don't hit it. Don't hit it. You really want to hit it here at R3. We're starting to stuff at R3. Don't hit it. And then it comes back up here, 47.50, can't get there. Can't get there, 47.50, comes back down for a second. You're like, oh, that's the moment, that's the level, 47.50, it's a whole number, or it's right on that 50 level, right on that 50-cent level. Starts to slow down, the tape almost looks like it, and you're freaking sitting there, your finger like, you want to get a starter, but you can't jump in front of something like this, because it's just going, dude. It's like, doesn't make any sense. Why is it going like that? So, really proud of myself to wait until we come up, we get a big stuff, red candle. I had started to see that, let's see here, the arrows are kind of making it a little bit hard to see. So 47.50, obviously, this is where now I'm starting to kind of build into an idea. I'm starting to build into what's the playbook trade I can put on this. What's the shape? What's the setup? What's the pattern? And we start to get it. I'm like, at this point, I'm already telling myself, hey, good job for not hitting it. Good job for not hitting it. And I'm getting that feedback loop of like, okay, I'm being patient. I'm talking to myself in the moment. I'm like, I'm being patient. And obviously in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm doing a good job. Doing a good job. Just wait. Like, and I'm already coaching myself. It might go without me. It might go without me. It might go without me. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Just wait till you see it. Wait till you see it and hit it hard on the first try. And so we start to get this level, 47.50, starts to slow down, rips through it. And then it comes back on this wick, and if you're watching the box, 47.50 starts to be a level. We peak out 48.50. Now we're starting to fail. Now I'm starting to piece something together. We've got a pivot point, which is something I like. We've got a 47.50 level. This is already a level on my chart, apparently. We're getting really extended. My personal indicator, which says AFV, which is ATRs from VWAP, it's saying something really big reading. It was like, I don't remember. It was 2 or 3 times what I would normally want to see. So I'm like, okay, it's got that, it's got that, it's got this. And then it's starting to fail at a pivot, and then watching 47.50 is a level. 47.50 is a level. And what does it do? Giant stuff through 47.50. And that moment, when we break 47.50 on a big violent one, we break prior bar lows, and we don't just break them, we push hard through them. Like, basically break this second prior bar low at the same time. So I'm already starting in quarter position at least, But then, and luckily I was really just patient with this thing to not just let it just go away from me. And sometimes it will. Sometimes you look like you did the right thing on a trade like this, and then other times you only grabbed a quarter and it just takes off without you, and you're like, I did the wrong thing. But more often than not, I like these ones that come back and confirm. When they confirm like that, now you've got conviction, you can slam it. So I start in, get the quarter, wait, trying to tell myself on the trigger, my finger's right there on the hotkey, like, wait till you get the better average, boy. Like, let this thing come back up. let it confirm 47.50. Like that's shown to be a level. So it comes up. What does it do? Doesn't quite get to 47.50. You can see my executions here. Yeah, y'all can see that. So it comes up. I'm already, boom, boom, a quarter. And then here, I'm trying to get a good average here at these 47.50s, but also let it confirm. Let it confirm. Don't be so worried about the average. And obviously, I'm risking to these highs. So I'm kind of figuring out how many shares I want. I'm already kind of thinking if it's X amount of dollar risk, this is kind of rough idea how many shares I want. So I'm kind of building in, and then it boom, stuffs 47.50s. That's the moment. Boom, 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 add. And then now we kind of come back, fail to follow through versus a pivot again right here. And I think there was I think this arrow is covering it up. Maybe not. I want to say there was a wick, but it's not showing a wick on here. But yeah, there was something else that I saw here on this pivot to, I think it was just the fact that it was holding below the pivot stuffed and it's still, oh, I know what it was. We're holding below pivot and we're starting to make a lower high. Now we've got 2 candles in a row that this one's about to close and it's like still, it's confirming it's rolled over. It's confirmed this 47.50 fell follow through. It's the stuff. It's all these things combined. And I'm adding that last bit. Really great discipline there. This is something in my monthly review. I'm like, do more of this. Like if you miss it, you miss it. But when it sets up this way, you've got the conviction to slam it. And that's what it's about. It's not about having a trade you see and being able to predict it and getting it right. Or it's not about seeing a trade where you think it's going to work and then it works and you missed it. It's about waiting and for all the signals to be there to where when you take that trade over a large sample size, you are waiting for enough signals to have a very high odds trade, to have good risk reward. All these things combined. That's what it's about. It's not about missing the trade. If you missed the trade when you were too early in, well, good, because you saved yourself the loss in the long run. That's what you missed. So be fearful of losing if you take the trade, not fearful of missing the profit, because on the long run, you're not going to make the profit. So watching the tape, really, again, the same attitude that paid off through not entering really paid off on the covers. I was able to capture like basically the whole move. And it's just watching the box, being patient. My target's VWAP. Just like the Apple trade, my target's VWAP, but I'm watching the box. I want to see it show me VWAP. I want to see buyers here at VWAP. Sometimes it just comes, boom, rips. And you lose a little bit on the slippage and you try to get out, whatever. Sometimes if it's really far away from VWAP, then maybe I have a little bit of a buy there. But lately, my tape reading skills have just been getting so much better that I trust myself. Obviously, my finger's on the trigger. Like I'm ready to cover, a quarter. Like I'm ready to go quarter and get half out, or quarter, get 3/4 out. I'm ready to just hit my other hotkey to just liquidate the whole thing if I have to. At VWAP. Usually I want to leave a small trailer just in case, but I'm watching the tape. I'm watching the box. It's not showing me there's a buyer here. It's not the character it had here where it comes up, gets stuffed, makes a higher low, gets stuffed, it's just rolling over right into VWAP. And it's already showing this character here. When we get down to VWAP and it starts to hold for a second, but it's just not, it's not that spray. It's not, the time and sales is not just getting that just flush of green. The offer, if I'm watching the offer, it's not just getting hit. I'm watching bids get hit, if anything. I'm watching a bid there with some size get decremented. At VWAP, I ain't covering if there's a bid get decremented. Like, it's not happening. So we come down, and it starts to stall a little bit. It starts to slow down, starts to be a change in character. We're starting to not make new lows. The tape starts to change a little bit. There starts to be a little bit of back and forth. We're starting to get contracting range, which means we're kind of starting to consolidate. There's starting to be some price acceptance here a little bit. So I'm starting to cover a little piece here. And we get down a little bit more and kind of push off this pivot. Buyers are kind of starting to show their hand a little bit, cover a little bit more here. We start to push up again here. At this point, we haven't made a fresh high, or we haven't broke this prior bar high here. We're still holding below that. You know, Lance talks about that a lot. But it just now we're not making new lows. We're below VWAP. Sometimes these things rip through VWAP and then they come back, you know. And so I'm keeping all that in mind. I've got a great trade. I'm up nicely. Don't want to get greedy here. So I'm watching that tape slow down. I'm watching the volume kind of pick up in certain candles, and I'm watching, you know, the whole thing. Watching it kind of hold these levels. So I'm taking a piece off here. We start to break through prior bar highs. We get a little push back up, but then I take a piece off and it gets slammed back down. And then here I'm like, okay, at this point I just got a quarter left, or an eighth. Probably I think it's a quarter. And I'm just watching it, you know, and I think, oh yeah. So this, I take a piece off, comes back up, and I want to see it, at this point I want to see it stuff at VWAP. Because if it stuffs at VWAP, I'm not going to cover this quarter for a while. If it stuffs at VWAP, I'm going to put a trailer and just say, where could this thing go? I've already locked in a profit. I'm going to put a trailer on the rest. If it stuffs at VWAP, I want to just see a higher low. I want to see something to tell me to get out. I'm going to leave this trailer on and treat it a little bit more like a small cap. Like, where can this thing go on this trailer? But so we stuff at VWAP. We push back down now to a new low, this 47.20, which was a level on the daily, I think it was, or 42.70. I'm saying weird numbers. And then right here, I threw a quick trend line on this in the moment because my eyes are looking at this and starting to go, hey, it looks like this is holding a pretty clean trend. And again, I don't trade trend lines, but I throw them on there. Like, if it's holding them, it's holding them. It can add a little bit more conviction to get in or get out on something, usually to get out. If you can throw a trend line on something real quick in the moment, I've got my finger on the trigger, you know, I've got my finger on the hotkey, I take my mouse, throw a quick trend line on it, and sure enough, like, I find the spot that the trend line's hitting the most points and holding the points. It doesn't have to be exact. That's why this whole business of like trend line strategies, like, I don't know, people trade a lot of different things, but I don't believe it. So, because it's kind of arbitrary. It's like up to your discretion. So I just throw a trend line on here. It's kind of touching multiple points. It's holding it. But for exiting something like this, when I'm already starting to see it exhaust out, I'm already starting to see buyers on the tape step in, and then it breaks the trend line, it kind of holds for a second, and it starts to push off. I'm hitting out. And sure enough, that was the low. And it starts to tick back up, and it actually went and just kept on running. It had a little up and down, and it went all the way back up these highs. So really, really proud of that trade. That was a great trade. Oh, I'm getting tired. Might be calling the video soon. Basically, this is still a multi-day runner. We started to fail off the open. Hold, start to squeeze up. Holding VWAP, boom, boom, boom. High day, clear out, pivot. And at this point, you got to take what you're given. Something's off the radar, but you're kind of, it's, you know, 11:30, 12 o'clock, and I'm flicking through my watch list. What's moving, what's not. And then you start to see, oh, HIMS is kind of moving. It's been on a multi-day run. It's kind of squeezing out here. It made a move off the low or off the highs and flushed down, and it starts to get back up. Maybe there's another opportunity here, and so you're just kind of watching it. Boom, high day clear out, pivot, holding below pivot, stuff. So when I see like hold below stuff, come up, peak out, stuff, hold below, and now lower high. And if you were to draw a trend line on this, you could probably start to see it starting to break trend here. Probably. I don't even know. I didn't throw one on here, but just visually you can look at it and tell. And then I start to see it in the tape. I start to see bids get hit. And when I see that with all these things coming together, high day clear out, it's already up too much. It's already multi-day runner. It's already got a level here. We're coming in to pivot. It's stuffing the tape. Boom, 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 boom. Not one thing, not some wedge breakout, not some whatever. Like, stack the odds in your favor. Like, add a level, like we were saying at the beginning of the video. Add the fact that I have a custom built indicator that says how many ATRs from VWAP. I don't trade that, but it adds conviction. If I need more in my favor, or if I'm already iffy on a trade and then I look down at this thing and it's like, it's not a super great reading. I want it more extended from VWAP. But if more things are in your favor, then great. So I start slamming it in, and it just waterfalls. I mean, like, nice. This is a banger. When you get one like this, you're like, sometimes you don't understand, why did it flush that much? And I'm flicking through the thing like, was there news just now? What happened? Why is it flushing like that? I didn't see anything. Maybe I'm super off my game. Maybe there was some news I didn't see. I didn't go back and look at it afterwards. I probably should have. I mean, I reviewed it on my chart and everything, but like on my notes. But I mean, whenever you get this quick flush back into a prior little level here, obviously you guys can see that, like there's a level here, and just a quick flush. I'm covering some just in case it pops back up. Add it back on. But I'm covering some into flushes, like Nate says in IU. Cover flushes, short pops. Cover flushes, short pops. Like recycle, reproactive, especially in this market. You get rewarded when you take the early cover on the one you think you're missing out, and then it rips and it swipes, and you missed out. You think you're missing out, but that's what happens. That's the people that don't cover. They're not locking in. In this market, you got to be proactive. So I'm taking pieces off in these flushes, and at this point, like when it has a flush like this, and I cover some, or in support, and it doesn't bounce, I mean, like it's gonna go. It's gonna go. Like when it can't bounce here after this candle, it ain't bouncing. Like not from my experience, it ain't bouncing here. So I cover a small piece here, but when it's this close to VWAP and it's got this much momentum, the cover here is not that big. Like this was probably a quarter. This might have been like an eighth, just as we're getting back down. And then at this point, I'm waiting for VWAP. I want to see VWAP and just fully get out. So then I add another quarter here of cover. Not add, but take a quarter cover off. So now I'm down to half size or so. And then we start to push back up through VWAP. You get the tape speed up, high or low, and it takes off. And I'm fully out here. We're pushing over VWAP. And that's that. It's a beauty of a trade. You got to improve and look at things and take what's your key takeaway from your trade review, and what do you need to work on. You make great trades, but you still need to work on some things. So that's the point. Hopefully you guys got something out of that whole video. Like I said, if not, I get a ton out of sitting here talking to myself, reviewing these trades and talking them through like I wouldn't to myself, talking them through like I'm trying to explain it to somebody that may or may not be out there. I think the other video got probably more than one view. So if there's one person out there that's actually on the other end of this camera, like I don't care if nobody watches it, but if one person is out there that I'm actually talking to, I'm talking to you. And if you're watching this far in the video, like you care about trading. And yeah, so trying to explain these things as if somebody's never seen them helps me a lot, and hopefully I'll find the time to keep making these things. If my face looks weird or blotchy, it's probably still got sunscreen on it. Just got back from surfing a little bit ago. Florida boy, market surfer, hence the name of the channel, and I'm probably going to go get some more waves. It's still nice and sunny outside, and I don't live at the beach. I'm looking at the sun, but I live in Florida, and it looks like it's still nice outside, so I'm going to go catch some waves, and I'll see you guys on the next video. If you made it this far, you're an OG, and I'll see you guys in the next one, hopefully. Peace out.